The candle flickers once, then settles. A low wind weaves through the shuttered slats of your wooden window. You shift slightly beneath rough wool blankets, the scent of dried rosemary and soot clinging to the corners of the room. Tonight, you'll drift into a forgotten corner of the past, a strange, uncomfortable chapter in which illness moved like breath through crowded alleyways, and the finest minds of the age responded with onions, urine, and leeches. Yesto night. You're going to become a medieval plague patient, or perhaps worse, one of the brave, baffled souls who tried to treat them, from shaving chickens and rubbing them under your armpits, to sitting in hot vinegar baths with your mouth full of crushed emeralds. This was a time when doctors were more dangerous than the disease. And no, you don't get a mask. Only a hood, a vial of perfume, and hope. If strange tales like this make you chuckle softly or sigh deeply, maybe consider tapping subscribe, but only if you truly mean it. I'll be here again tomorrow, whispering things no one ever mentioned in school. Now breathe slowly. Let's walk through the plague. The morning arrives slowly, gray and thick like old wool soaked in dew. You do not open your eyes at first, because something feels wrong. The usual ache in your spine is heavier now. Not just stiffness from sleeping on straw. Your head swims slightly when you shift, and behind your closed lids, there's a pulsing heat centered at your brow, crawling down your cheeks, thickening at your chest like smoke trapped beneath a roof. Your throat is dry, tight, when you swallow. The pain comes sharp and raw, as if you've been breathing soot in your sleep. You draw in a breath, but the air seems thin, damp. It smells of old tallow and cloth left too long in shadow. You try again. A longer breath. It scratches all the way down. You open your eyes. Above you, the ceiling sags with damp timbers. A long crack runs along the plaster, a familiar line you've seen every morning since you were small, but today it swims and splits slightly, as if the room won't stay still. Light filters through the wooden slats on the window muted, dust-flecked, pale like cold milk. It feels too quiet. That's when it sinks in. There are no footsteps, no clang of pots from the neighbor's hearth, no low chatter outside, just the wind brushing past the shutters like it doesn't want to be heard. You sit up slowly. Though your bones disagree, the rush of warmth in your face grows stronger. Your temples throb. Your skin feels stretched too tight around your frame. The way meat swells before it splits. A sheen of sweat coats your back, cold but thick. Your tongue runs across your teeth. They taste like brass. Your hands move to your stomach. There's a dull ache there, like something brewing, something old and angry. You cough once, softly. The sound startles you, too dry, too hollow. You press the crook of your arm to your mouth, more out of instinct than concern. For now, there's no blood, just heat. You stand. The floor is uneven beneath your bare feet, stone-chilled by the dawn. Your knees nearly give way, but you catch yourself on the edge of the table. The wood is sticky, perhaps syrup left from the night before, perhaps something else. You don't remember what you last ate. Bread, maybe, a fig. If the merchant was generous, your stomach turns again. Not from hunger. You reach for your tunic, the fabric rough and unwashed, hanging limp on the stool by the bed, lifting it to your chest. You notice your hands, they're trembling slightly, fingertips tinged pale. You mutter something, a prayer, perhaps, or just your own name. It feels thinner in the air than it should. Outside, faint footsteps echo, one set, slow, then a knock. You freeze, 3 knocks, deliberate, then the soft creak of a voice. Open? The word is simple, but something in its tone twists your gut. You open the door, and there he stands. He wears no robes, no mask, not yet. His face is familiar, your cousin, the village healer, or what passes for one. His expression is pinched, not frightened, just resigned. He steps inside without asking, carries a small sack. You see the telltale bulge of vials, the glint of pewter tools. His eyes meet yours briefly. He doesn't smile. He reaches forward, lays a hand on your forehead. It's cold, much colder than your skin. He steps back. He says the word out loud, quietly, but you hear it like thunder, fever. You nod once, though the motion sends your vision tilting. You try to speak, but your voice fails halfway up your throat. He doesn't wait for you to try again. He begins unpacking his things: a jar of thick, black salve, a bundle of cloth, a small wooden box with dark stains at the edges. You watch, silent, as he lays them out on the table like sacred relics. Then he pulls out the strip of painted linen, the one they use to mark houses. You've seen it on others' doors. You never thought you'd see it laid across your own table. He begins boiling water in a kettle you don't remember lending him. The scent of rosemary rises faintly, then lavender, then something else. Bitterness, metallic and burnt. You sit again, slowly. The room feels smaller. Your cousin reaches for your hand, turns it over, studies the veins. You want to ask, how bad is it? But you already know. He opens the window slightly, just enough to let the breeze cut through. He avoids your eyes now. He wets the cloth, presses it to your chest. His hands are steady, practiced. You feel yourself slipping into something slower. Not sleep, not peace, just weight. As though gravity has thickened, as though time has forgotten to tick forward. He says nothing else, just begins humming softly, a tune from childhood. It doesn't comfort you. Then he turns to the wall, dips his finger in the dye, and draws the mark, a red cross, wide, bold, final. No one will come after today, not willingly. You are alone now, and the fever is just beginning. You don't remember dozing off, but when your eyes blink open again, the light has shifted. It now slants through the slats in sharper angles, gilding the dust as it drifts slowly through the room. Your skin is damp again, but cooler this time, as though your body has given up on the fight and now lets the sweat slide off without protest. The linen on your cot sticks faintly to your back, and somewhere behind your eyes. A pulse begins to knock soft at first, then firmer, as though reminding you that your head is still yours. For now. There's a sound in the street, not footsteps this time, but a heavy dragging metal scraping against cobble, followed by a sharp clang and the distant creak of wooden wheels, a murmur, a groan, and then a knock that isn't gentle. Fist on wood, twice, then once more. Harder. The door creaks inward before you can speak, and in the doorway stands the barber surgeon. He fills the frame like a broken statue, broad-shouldered, leather apron dark with oil and older stains, a belt slung low across his hip, bearing knives and tongs and tools whose names you'd rather not learn. His beard is grizzled, face lined with dirt and something darker than weariness. His hands are gloveless, his sleeves are rolled, and his eyes they barely meet yours. He steps in without asking, drops a heavy satchel with a thud onto your table, sending the nearby jar of herbs wobbling. You try to sit upright. The motion costs you. Your vision blurs. He doesn't help, just grunts, and mutters something about humidity in the lungs. He lifts your arm, roughly, turns your wrist, sniffs. You can smell him before he speaks ale from last night, still sharp in his breath, mingled with the scent of soapwort, iron, and old blood soaked into wool. He clicks his tongue, mutters something about your color, then unfastens a strap from his belt. Out comes a blade, not long, not ornate, but clean, freshly honed, and already glinting with purpose. You feel your breath catch reflex, perhaps, but there's no strength behind it. He leans close, too close, and says the words with a kind of bored finality. The humors are clogged, too much heat, too much bile. Well, let some of it out. You want to ask what humors are, or why they always seem to need draining, or how someone who cuts hair is now holding a razor to your flesh. But there's no time for wit, and less for protest. He ties a strip of rough linen around your upper arm, tight enough to bite, then presses your forearm down on the table and angles your wrist toward the light. You watch him search for the vein. The room is suddenly very quiet. Then pressure, a prick, a warm release. It doesn't hurt much, not yet, but you watch your own blood slide down your skin in slow, syrupy lines, and the nausea comes unbidden. Your stomach flips gently, but the barber doesn't notice, or care. He leans forward, catching the blood in a shallow bowl of pewter dark, misshapen, older than your parents. He watches it fill, then wipes your wrist with a wad of moss, unceremoniously, and sets the bowl aside like an apple core. You try to speak, but he's already rummaging through his satchel. This time he pulls out a tool that looks like tongs made by someone who hates fingers. He checks your eyes, tilts your chin, taps your chest with the back of his knuckle. He listens to your breath, with his ear close against your ribs. You try not to move. Still clear, he mumbles, more to himself than to you. That'll change, then comes the scraping. You blink hard, trying to focus, but your vision lags. You hear the sound of metal on leather, then a soft shink, Hez sharpening another blade, shorter, curved. You recognize it as the one he uses for boils, though you've never seen it this close. He hasn't said the word yet, but he suspects, as you do, that the buboes will come, and when they do, hell be ready, not to save you, but to lance, drain, and cauterize, all in the hope that maybe, just maybe, you will survive the process. He turns now, surveys your home without interest, notes the straw at the threshold, sees the red mark on the wall, nods once. You'll need garlic, he says, plenty of it, and vinegar. Get someone to boil it in the mornings. Breathe it in, rub it on your chest. You nod weakly. He picks up his bowl of blood, walks to the door, and without turning back, adds one final note over his shoulder. Best not to eat for 2 days. Let your body fight. If it wins, you'll know, then he's gone. The door closes with a thud that feels too final. You lie back. Slowly, the room seems dimmer now, not darker, exactly, just blurred at the edges, as though the walls have softened, the corners melted. The pulse in your head has quieted, but it's been replaced by a different sensation, a kind of float, as though your body is no longer heavy but hollow, like a bell half struck. You stare at the ceiling again. The crack still runs the same path, only now it splits in two near the far corner. Or maybe your vision is splitting. You aren't sure, but the barber surgeon has come and gone, and the bleeding has begun. You wake again in the near dark, but the light is different this time, muted, golden, like candle flame filtered through old beeswax. The shadows sway ever so slightly across the low ceiling, as if the room itself is breathing beside you, slow and long, in and out, in and out. Your body feels lighter, not with strength, but with a kind of absence, as though some part of you has been gently scooped away in the night and replaced with stillness. Your limbs no longer resist movement, but they do not welcome it either. You shift on the cot, your skin, slick with a cool sheen, slides easily over the rough linen beneath, and just for a moment, you wonder if you've been changed. Then you hear them, tiny wet movements, soft and deliberate, like raindrops slithering through moss. You blink, and your gaze finds the corner of the room. A low bowl rests there, shallow and earthen, filled with something dark, not quite red, not quite black. The smell finds you before the memory returns, iron-rich, moist, a little rotten, blood, and the creatures that love it. The barber surgeon had returned, you think, or maybe someone else, a neighbor's boy, perhaps, too young to be frightened properly. You don't remember much, just the sound of cloth being lifted, the chill of air across your bare chest, and then the soft, nauseating suction of mouths that weren't quite mouths. There had been leeches. You tilt your head slowly to the side, the effort dragging a quiet groan from your throat. The bandage across your ribs pulls slightly, not tight, just present. A reminder. You lift your hand and trace the cloth with your fingertips, feeling the slight ridges beneath where each little creature had been pressed. The skin is warm to the touch, inflamed. You wonder if the swelling is a good sign. They always say the leeches draw out bad blood, that the pain afterward is proof something wicked was taken. But it doesn't feel gone, not really. Your chest rises as you draw in a breath, slow and careful. There's a faint sting just beneath the left collarbone, where the largest leech had clung the longest. You remember the way its body pulsed as it fed, swelling with every beat of your heart, its slick form coiling slightly as if it could taste your fever. You'd wanted to look away, but you hadn't had the strength, so you had stared, watched it drink, helpless and still. You'd tried to imagine it was something else, a fig, a snail, something harmless. But you knew better. They said it was an old remedy, older than the town, older than the church. Even, they said the leeches remembered sickness better than men did, that they could smell imbalance, that they chose the sick, not the other way around. You don't know if that's true, but it makes a certain kind of sense. The way old things do, you shift again. A wave of lightheadedness brushes past your temples like silk dragged through water. You close your eyes for a moment, letting it pass. The room hums faintly around you, the creak of timber, the distant crackle of fire from a hearth somewhere beyond your walls. There is a rhythm to it, and for a while, you drift with it, soft, slow, dull. You open your eyes again. The leech bowl is gone now. You can't remember when it was taken, but a trail of dark spots marks the wooden floor where it had been. A map of something that needed no directions. You reach for the jug by the bed, water, or at least what passes for it. The clay is cool in your hands, rough-edged and chipped at the lip. You lift it to your mouth and sip. The liquid is stale, faintly sour, but it touches the back of your throat like rain on dry bark. You hold it there for a moment before swallowing, then again, then once more. 3 sips, that's all. You set the jug down. Across the room, someone coughs, not you. The sound is muffled, far enough that you can't tell who it is, but close enough that you feel it in your ribs. The village is quieter now. Most have shuttered their windows, barred their doors, stuffed dried herbs into the cracks to keep the pestilence out. But sound travels differently in stillness. You can hear the groan of carts, the clop of hooves, the murmured prayer of someone walking too quickly past a marked house. And once, you swear you hear laughter. Not joyful, not even cruel, just nervous, human. You imagine someone behind a wall, telling a story about you, or perhaps not about you at all. Just someone like you, a name they used to know, a face they might remember next week, or forget tomorrow. You don't mind? Not anymore? You lie back slowly, letting the weight of your arms pull the blanket higher over your chest. The bandages rustle faintly. You wonder if the leeches had names, or if they'd been used on someone else before you. You wonder if they'll be used again. Then you feel it again. That low pulse beneath your skin, a thick, warm beat. Not quite pain, but too close to ignore. It pulses once, then again, steady. You close your eyes, let it keep time, and somewhere in the dark, you hear the tiny, wet sound of something remembering your blood. The next morning arrives not with light, but with the soft rustling of feathers. Your eyes open slowly to a dim room, still heavy with the must of sweat, ash, and something slightly acrid that clings to the corners like bad memory. For a moment, you don't quite understand the sound, this soft, frantic flutter. The gentle scrape of claws against wood. Then you turn your head, and you see it. A chicken, bare, pale, trembling. Its feathers have been plucked. Not all the way, just enough to expose its slick, mottled underbelly, still damp where the skin stretches taut over bone and heat. It does not look at you. Its eyes are dark and flickering, confused, uncertain of its fate, or perhaps entirely aware. Someone has tethered its feet with twine, knotted with haste, and left it in a basket by your cot. A second basket holds fresh garlic, bruised and pungent, a bowl of water, a strip of linen, a note you cannot read, though you don't need to. You know what this is. The rubbing must begin. You lie still for a long while, not from dread, exactly, but because your limbs have grown heavier. A deep, velvet weight seems to press along your shoulders now, curling through your arms and into the tips of your fingers. Even your thoughts feel slower, like smoke trying to drift through honey. But the ritual is meant to be done at dawn, before the fever fully settles in the chest, when the body is still deciding whether to fight or surrender. You wonder what your body has already chosen. Eventually, your hands obey. You sit upright. Each movement pulls at your sides, a soft burn where the leeches left their ghosts. You reach into the basket and lift the chicken gently. Awkwardly, it shifts in your grasp, wings twitching as though it might remember how to fly. Its body is warm, too warm, almost like yours. You hold it against your chest, its legs kicking softly, and begin to move it in slow circles beneath your armpits. First the left, then the right. The sensation is strange, not painful, not pleasant, just unsettling. The raw skin of the bird presses against your own fevered flesh. Slick meeting slick. Warmth against warmth. Two living bodies trying to exchange something neither fully understands. The motion is slow, rhythmic, like polishing wood that refuses to shine. You can feel the tremor in the chicken's body. Its breath is quick and shallow. You wonder if it's afraid of you, or if it senses what this ritual truly means. They say the illness can be drawn out of the body and into another, that the chicken, poor creature, will absorb the corruption through the skin, through shared heat, through desperation. That when it dies, it takes your sickness with it. They say the worse the bird looks, the better your odds. So you keep going. The minutes stretch. Your breath grows slower. The chicken's movements fade from frantic to sluggish. It begins to shiver, not with panic now, but weakness. Its head lowers. You adjust your grip, pressing it more firmly beneath your arm, and continue. The priest once said this ritual was as old as Babylon, or maybe older, that some illnesses respond only to suffering, that the soul of the disease needs somewhere to hide, eventually. The bird stops moving. You do not stop. You rub until your arms ache, until your chest feels scalded, until you can't tell which body is warmer, until the silence in the room becomes thick enough to notice. Then you lay the chicken back into the basket. It does not twitch. You lower yourself slowly back onto the cot, your breath louder now, more labored, as though your chest has become a drum full of ash and cinders. The air smells stronger, the garlic, the bird, the sharp tang of sweat. You pull the linen over your body and let the heat rise again, rolling across your skin like smoke from a dying fire. Somewhere outside, a cart rolls past. Its wheels clatter over uneven stones. A dog barks, then falls silent. The world, for the most part, remains indifferent. You close your eyes, and you picture it, the chicken, now cold, lying limp beside the garlic and the bowl of water. You imagine something black and oily lifting itself out of your skin, writhing through the air in a ribbon of filth, curling into the hollow body of the bird before folding itself tight and still. You imagine the trade complete, and for a moment, just the barest moment, you almost believe it worked. The air in your chamber is thicker today. It presses low against your lungs, damp and lazy, as though the room itself has grown weary of its own silence. You shift beneath the coarse linen sheet, the edges stiff with dried sweat and herbal residue. Your eyes open slowly, unfurling like old parchment left too long in the cold, and almost at once, you notice the scent. It coils through the room in thin spirals, sharp at first, like pine pitch scraped across hot stone, then deeper, rounder, with an earthy undertone that reminds you of rain-soaked bark and bruised citrus. You taste it on your tongue before you're fully awake. You blink, and the air wavers. Something is burning, not a fire, not danger, something intentional. The shadows flicker faintly on the far wall. You turn your head and see him, the monk. He's crouched near the hearth, feeding a shallow clay bowl with herbs from a damp sack leaves and stems and pods that look half crushed, half rotted. Rosemary, mostly, but also bay, rue, dried rose hips, and a small, pale root you recognize by smell alone, angelica. He works slowly, methodically, his fingers stained green at the nails, his lips moving with no sound. You hear only the occasional snap of resin catching flame and the soft crackle as the herbs curl in on themselves, darkening, hissing, releasing their ghosts. He does not speak to you, but he does glance your way. You nod, or at least try. The gesture feels heavy, like your head must first push through syrup before obeying. He seems to understand. With a slow breath, he fans the smoke with a square of linen, guiding it upward, letting it drift. It moves like silk underwater, reaching out in thin tendrils toward the rafters, toward your bed, toward your mouth. You breathe it in. At first, your body resists. The smoke stings slightly, catching the back of your throat. Not a cough, not quite, but the start of one. You close your eyes, waiting for it to pass. When you inhale again, The bitterness is gentler, tempered by the sweetness of dried petals, the faint spice of crushed clove, the ghost of something warm and resinous. You smell old cedar chests and wax-polished pews. You smell incense from last winter's procession, mingled with the sweat of tightly packed bodies and the cold breath of marble saints. And beneath it all, you smell something else, something darker, a memory you didn't know you carried, smoke from a pyre, someone in the next village, gone in 3 days. You open your eyes again. The monk continues his slow work. He dips a branch of juniper into a small bowl of vinegar, holds it aloft for a moment, then gently shakes droplets into the smoke, watching as the mist thickens slightly. The scent shifts sharper now, cleansing, as though the room itself is wincing. He mouths another prayer. You do not understand the words, but you recognize the rhythm. It's not for you. It's not even for God. It's for the air. He walks the perimeter of the chamber, wafting smoke into each corner, brushing the herbs along the base of the walls, the corners of the threshold, the seams of the window shutters. You follow him with your eyes, slowly, until he returns to your side. He lifts a bundle of thyme and sage tied with twine and holds it close to your chest, not touching. Just hovering, then makes a slow circle over your heart. Clockwise, then counterclockwise. He hums, low and flat, the note vibrating against the bones of your chest like something trying to knock its way out. You begin to sweat again, not from fever, from heat. The smoke is dense now. It clings to your skin, settles into your hair, fills the hollows behind your knees and elbows and beneath your ribs. You can feel it inside you, like steam through a pipe. Every breath you take draws it deeper, and every breath you release feels heavier. You wonder if this is what it means to be fumigated, not just the air, but the soul, somewhere in the room. A candle gutters. A droplet of wax lands on the table with a soft click. The monk steps back. The ritual is done. He does not ask how you feel. He does not wait for thanks. He collects his bowl, gathers his bundle, and walks toward the door with the same quiet purpose with which he arrived. He pauses briefly at the threshold, touches 2 fingers to the red cross painted on your outer wall, and then disappears into the light. The silence returns. But it is not the same silence. It is thicker now, softer, almost padded, almost. You close your eyes again. The scent clings to the inside of your nose, gentle and stubborn. You imagine it curling through your blood like vapor through cracks in old wood. You imagine it confusing the illness, blinding it, tricking it into leaving. They say smoke can drive out demons. You wonder what yours looks like, and if it has wings. The morning light creeps through the shutter like a cautious guest, a narrow golden thread weaving across the rough floorboards and settling on the folds of your blanket, warm where it touches, though your skin beneath is still cool, still quiet. The fever hasn't lifted, but it lingers differently now, not with the wildfire of early days, but with the stubborn breath of coals that refuse to die. Your limbs lie where they fell, heavy with fatigue rather than pain. Your thoughts softened at the edges, slow and curling, like smoke rising from an unseen fire. The room holds its hush as it always does, the air dense with the lingering scent of burned herbs, dried sweat, vinegar that soaked into the wood long ago. You breathe slowly, not testing, just observing. You count 4 heartbeats before the sound of footsteps interrupts the stillness. They're firm, measured, echoing faintly in the corridor outside, not rushed but steady, deliberate, like the tick of an unfamiliar clock keeping time to a rhythm you don't control. The door creaks once and opens before you speak, before you lift your head, before you remember whether today is a day worth opening your eyes at all. He enters. The figure moves into the room with the same quiet certainty he carries into every house. The scent that follows him is sharp and layered cloves, rose petals, dried mint, camphor soaked in vinegar and sealed behind layers of cloth. He is tall, his form obscured by a long, dark cloak, the folds hanging stiff from waxed linen. But it's the mask that holds your gaze, that bird-like beak with its heavy glass eyes, gleaming faintly in the dim light like the eyes of something that sees without feeling. You know it well, the doctor, the mask, the rod. He does not speak. He never does unless absolutely necessary. Words take breath. And breath is what he has come to avoid. He walks to the center of the room, wooden cane tapping once against the floor before pausing as he studies you. You remain still. Your hands rest quietly at your sides. Your body makes no protest. But inside, the slow ripple of dread begins to form. Not panic, but a solemn recognition. Because his presence rarely precedes good news. He approaches without rush, lifts the cane slightly, and gestures toward your chest. You sit up as best you can, propped against the wall, breath shallow, eyes not quite level, but awake. From his pouch, he retrieves a small vial, uncorks it with one precise movement, and waves it gently beneath your nose. The sting arrives instantly, sharp and acrid, the scent of crushed garlic soaked in spirits, the kind of thing that searches the hollows behind your eyes and leaves your throat raw. You turn your face slightly, cough once, then steady yourself. He watches, he notes. Without expression, he replaces the vial and reaches for your wrist. His gloves are tight, clean, dusted with chalk. He pinches gently at your pulse, not for long, just enough to measure the strength of your blood. Then he unfastens a pouch near his belt and draws out a thin brass tool, more pointer than blade, its end shaped into a flattened curve. He tilts your head to the side, presses lightly along your jawline, and finds what you knew he would, the swelling just beneath the skin, firm and rising, pulsing faintly with warmth you wish you could pretend wasn't there. His hand pauses for a moment, just enough to confirm, then moves to the next, your neck, your armpit. Each place checked, noted, confirmed. He taps the cane lightly against the floor again, a signal only he understands. Next comes the inspection of the lungs. He pulls a thin disc of polished wood from his case and presses it gently to your chest, tilts his head forward, listening through the hollow tube as you breathe in. Hold, breathe out. He moves it, listens again. You watch his eyes behind the mask. They do not flicker. They do not change. But something in the stillness tells you he's heard what he expected. He wipes the instrument carefully before returning it to the pouch. Then, without warning, he steps back and draws from his cloak a waxed leather book, edges curled from years of use. He opens it, flips several pages, then begins writing in small, deliberate strokes your condition, your pulse, the position and size of the swelling, the color of your skin. You know because you've heard him do it before in other houses, seen the pages held up to the light outside, read by torch and fire and guesswork. He does not look at you while writing. He does not speak. When the note is complete, he tears the page cleanly, folds it twice, and places it at the edge of your table. It is not for you. It is for the next who comes, the next who risks entry. He finishes with the usual motions, from a side pocket. He produces a sachet of dried flowers wrapped tightly in muslin, bound with black thread, lavender, perhaps rose hips, a sprig of thyme. He lays it gently on the bed near your feet, a token of purity or protection, or simply something to make the room smell less like death. Then, with one gloved hand, he adjusts the edge of your blanket to cover your chest again, nods, once no flourish, no blessing, and turns toward the door. As he opens it, he pauses, only briefly, and lifts the cane one last time. He does not point it. He simply rests it lightly against the frame. And in that small pause, in that motion, you understand more than words would carry. You are still within the margins, still within the reach of observation, still a name he writes rather than erases. Then he is gone. The door closing behind him, with the final hush of soft leather and dried leaves brushing the air. The room is quiet once more, but not untouched. The scent he leaves behind lingers in your nose, the burn still warming the back of your throat, the cool where his fingers pressed against your neck, still blooming faintly beneath the skin. You lie back, slowly, your bones soft beneath you, your breath thinner now, but easier to count. And you stare at the ceiling without blinking, letting the moment stretch just long enough to remember how silence once felt, before masks and gloves and eyes that never blinked. The doctor has gone, but the illness has not, and the cane's echo still rings somewhere in the corners of your thoughts. There comes a moment, not with sound, nor light, but with a shift in sensation when you know something inside you has changed. Not drastically, not with thunder, just a slow blooming, a pulse beneath the skin that wasn't there before, a deeper heat, not of the fever you've grown used to, but of something more precise, more pointed. Your body is no longer one solid ache, but a map of strange topography swells and hollows, ridges and pits, each tender to the touch, each humming with its own quiet throb. You feel it first at the neck, a small knot, beneath the ear, pressing gently against your jaw whenever you swallow, then another, near your collarbone, as if a stone had been tucked beneath your skin while you slept, then two more, one in the hollow of your thigh, another beneath your arm, each growing with such slowness that you might have ignored them had they not begun to ache. But they do ache, dull, steady, like bruises pressed by invisible thumbs. They make their presence known with every breath you take, every shift of cloth against skin, every movement that once felt normal but now reminds you of the small betrayals inside your flesh. You know what this is. You've seen it on others. The buboes, swollen glands, they say, full of corruption, black bile, and something older than blood. The disease collects here, pools in these tender sacs like rot at the base of a tree. Some say if they rupture, you live. If they darken, you die. Others say it doesn't matter, that once they appear, it is only a matter of time. Still, you press your hand to one of them, the one beneath your arm. It is warm, firmer than you expect. You do not push, not yet. Outside, the light has softened again. You can't tell if it's dusk or dawn. The sun no longer announces itself through your shutters. It slips past like a guest who doesn't want to be noticed. The walls have gone quiet. The town, too. No more carts, no more bells. Only the wind now, dragging dust through empty alleys, whispering past boarded windows as if afraid to linger too long in one place. You shift beneath the blanket. The pain sharpens slightly, then dulls, then settles into a rhythm. You try to distract yourself, briefly, by counting the stones in the wall. You make it to 11 before losing track. The room spins gently when you move your head, so you stop moving. Let your eyes unfocus. There is something oddly familiar about this part, this waiting, this stillness between becoming worse and becoming unwell. You remember watching others pass through it, the vacant stares, the shallow breaths, the way their fingers twitched for something to hold but found only air. You remember a girl who lived 2 doors down. Her mother tied blue ribbons to the shutters every morning, believing they would confuse the illness. She died before the ribbons lost their color. You wonder if your mother left one here. If someone is walking past your window now, counting how many homes bear signs of surrender, you close your eyes, but the pressure remains, a deep, liquid heaviness in your joints. Your breath rattles faintly, thinner than before, as though your chest has become a sieve. You cough. Once, then again. A small fleck rises to your lips. You do not look at it. You do not need to. Instead, your hand drifts back beneath the blanket, to the swelling under your ribs. It's larger now, taut, the skin stretched tight, tender to even the lightest touch. You press. Barely. The heat there answers immediately, a pulse against your palm, steady and strange, like something growing in its own time. You do not cry. There is no point to it. This is the part they never tell you about, the long, slow boil, the moment between being human and being marked. You can still speak. If you try, still sit up, still think in words, but your body has already changed its mind. It is becoming something else, not dying, just unraveling. You shift again, this time not from discomfort, but curiosity. You peel back the blanket, inch by inch, and look. The buboes are there, risen, glossy. One a purplish hue, another nearly red. One weeps slightly at the edge, a clear fluid beating like sap from wounded bark. You watch them, as though observing strange fruit growing from your own limbs. They seem unreal, detached, as if they were placed there by someone else. But they are yours, and you are theirs now. A breeze creeps through the shutter slats. It smells of ash and herbs. and something sour beneath it all. You close your eyes and imagine a fire, not far off, burning the clothes of someone who didn't make it. You imagine your robe added to the pile, the scent of it carried downwind, a trace of you lingering. You lie back slowly, your body settling into the shallow imprint of its own weight. The pain in your side has dulled again. The ache has leveled out into a warm hum. You breathe in, once, slowly, and wonder how many more mornings your skin will still hold you. You don't remember falling asleep, only the thick pull of silence folding around you like wool. But when you open your eyes again, there's a different kind of warmth in the room, not feverish, not sickly, but sharper, more alive. The kind of heat that crackles in the air and makes the hairs on your arms rise. You shift, just barely, and hear the faint pop of embers nearby. Then a smell metal, smoke, something bitter beneath it like burning bone. You know that scent. Even before you turn your head fully, you know what it means. Has come back. The barber surgeon stands by the hearth, sleeves rolled high, apron darker now than the last time, with smudges that weren't there before. His tools are already out, lined up on a cloth like instruments in a chapel, each one glinting faintly in the amber light. Some are thin, curved, some thick and cruel. But your eyes settle on one alone, the iron rod resting directly in the coals, its tip glowing a deep, deliberate red. It pulses like a star that has forgotten the sky. You look away. He doesn't speak at first, doesn't ask how you feel. He knows. He's seen enough of you to stop pretending now. He walks over, eyes low, pulls the blanket down past your chest, and lays a hand gently, almost gently, above your left rib. His palm is cold. Your skin is not. You flinch. And he nods as if that tells him everything. He presses down, just slightly, and you inhale sharply as pain blooms outward like ink dropped in water. The bubo beneath screams its presence. Ready? He mutters. Not a question. You do not answer. You can't. He moves back to the fire. There's no ritual here, no prayer, no preparation beyond the practical. He wipes the iron once on a square of damp cloth, lifts it in his bare hand, and walks toward you with the calm certainty of someone who's done this before too many times. You want to close your eyes, but something in you won't let go of the moment. You stare at the iron, the way the red light dances across its edge, the way it sizzles faintly in the still air. Your body tightens without permission. Your hand clenches into the cot. You brace for the moment your skin becomes not skin. He does not warn you. The rod presses down. The pain is not sharp. It is total. It consumes the breath in your throat, the vision in your eyes, the memory of every cool thing you've ever touched. It rushes up through your chest and out your mouth in a sound that doesn't resemble your voice, something low, broken, half lost. Your body arches once, then collapses. The muscles gone useless beneath the heat. You smell yourself, burned flesh, salt, a scream that did not escape, and still, it stays, pressed against the swelling, the infection, the place where death has begun to collect. The hiss is louder now. The flesh fights, but it gives way. The iron wins. It always does, when he finally pulls it back. Your skin feels hollow, like something dug out. You don't look. You don't have to. He sets the iron back in the coals without ceremony, then kneels beside you, dabs at the wound with a cloth soaked in something strong vinegar, maybe or wine, or just water. Though nothing cold, you can't tell. Everything is warm now. The pain has crested. What remains is a hollow throb, slow and deep, like a bell swinging somewhere very far away. You are still shaking. He notices, without a word. He lifts a small cloth and lays it gently over your brow. It smells of lavender, or what once might have been lavender, now overpowered by the sharper scent of medicinal oils. He wipes the sweat from your cheek, not unkindly, just briefly, as though reminding you that you're still here, still bleeding, still needed for now. He wraps your side in clean linen, tight and quick. The cloth presses into the wound, and the pain flares again. But this time, it's something you can hold, something you can breathe through. You let it fill you, then ebb away. He stands, wipes his hands, nods once, Then he turns toward the tools and begins to clean them. Each motion practiced, efficient, distant. He doesn't look at you again, not until he reaches the door. There. He pauses, one hand on the latch, one glance over the shoulder. Just enough for you to see that faint flash of eyes beneath his hood. Not pity, not hope, just recognition. You've joined the list now. You are no longer a maybe. He leaves without speaking, and when the door closes behind him, it does so softly. You are alone again, but something's different. The smell lingers burned flesh, hot iron, vinegar, but the fever has shifted, not lifted, not gone, but dimmed, slightly, as though it too has been wounded. You lie very still, listening to the room settle around you, feeling the warmth ebb slowly from your side. You don't know if this will help, if the cauterizing saved anything, if the rod burned the plague or only marked your body for a gentler death. But for now, you are still breathing, and the iron is cooling in the fire. There are sounds, distant and soft. Long before you understand their meaning, wooden buckets scraping across stone, the slosh of liquid being poured, the muffled grunt of someone lifting something heavy, and then the faint creak of old iron legs settling against the uneven floor. You don't open your eyes. You don't need to. You know what's coming. The ritual they save for those too sick to sit up, too heavy with fever to argue. You know it by the smell alone, sharp, sour, stinging your nose before the first breath is even full. Vinegar and something else. The chamber is warmer than before. Not comfortable, just thick with heat, as if the air has grown sluggish with use, reluctant to leave. You lie still, staring at the beams above you, the old ones with cracks deep enough to hold dust from years before you were born. Your body is slick again, soaked through not with sweat alone, but with the strange residue of sickness, the sheen that clings to dying things. You breathe through your mouth to avoid the sting of what now floods the room. But it makes little difference. The scent settles in your throat, acidic, ammonia, rotten apples, overripe fruit mixed with copper and salt. Then hands, two of them. One lifts your shoulder. The other slides a cloth beneath your back, thick and damp and warm from being steeped too long. You don't resist. They've done this before. A servant, maybe, or someone hired to touch the dying. You feel them adjusting your limbs, lifting and folding like cloth, gentle in a way that does not come from care but practice. A job done by someone whose mind has long since learned not to linger on the details. The first wash comes without warning. A bowl is poured slowly down your chest, the liquid lukewarm and unkind, running along your ribs in jagged lines. You inhale sharply, not from cold, but from the shock of it, how the vinegar stings every raw patch of skin, every wound not fully closed, every place the fever has hollowed into. The smell is stronger now, all around you, rising in steam, seeping into the linens and the floor and the folds of your breath. You feel like something being pickled, preserved against the rot, as though they hope to soak the plague out of your flesh the same way you might cure meat against winter. Another pour, this time along your back. It trickles between your shoulder blades, settles into the curve of your spine, and pools at the base before soaking through the cot. You want to move, just an inch, but your limbs are slow, waterlogged, reluctant to obey. So, you remain still, letting the mixture seep into your skin, into your thoughts, into the quiet spaces where the fever used to live. The warmth is not comforting, just invasive, like a secret whispered too close to your ear. The servant, if that's what they are, moves with rhythm. No speaking, no pause, just the methodical motion of cloth against flesh, water against bone. They scrub your chest with a soaked rag, dabbing near the wounds, careful but unflinching. You feel the sting again, this time deeper, sharper, like something clawing its way out through the pores. Your skin burns, but not with heat, more with memory, of cleaner air, of cooler days, of the last time you bathed without purpose. A second bowl arrives. You smell the difference before you feel it. It's thicker, riper. The vinegar is still there, but beneath it is something darker. Animal. Old. Your stomach turns. The cloth is dipped again. and this time, when it touches your leg, you flinch, not from pain. From knowing, you've heard the stories of bodily fluids collected in jars, mixed and heated, believed to draw out poisons, balance the humors, trick the plague into leaving the body by overwhelming it with the scent of something fouler. Urine. Perhaps your own, perhaps not. They do not say. They continue their work. They clean you as if preparing for burial, and in some strange, suspended part of your mind. You wonder if this is what kings feel like when they are embalmed, washed by strangers, preserved with mixtures that promise a longer sleep. But you are not a king. You are just another body marked by the cross on the door. The third bowl is cooler, a final rinse. The cloth glides more easily now. Your skin, raw and glistening, does not resist. You are turned gently onto your side, your spine curving into the shape of a question, and the rag is passed across your back like a benediction. It's quiet work, intimate in its impersonality. You wonder if they ever look into your face, or if it's easier not to, when it's done. The cloth is removed, and fresh linens are tucked around your body, not clean, exactly, but dry. You feel the faint pressure of them against your hip, the ghost of a fold near your knee, the warmth they hold from another bed, another body. You are eased down, your head guided to the pillow, your breath catching once before releasing into the stillness. They gather the bowls, they do not speak, they leave without closing the door, and you lie there, bathed in vinegar and memory, smelling of things you wish you didn't, wrapped in fabric that no longer smells like home. The room is quiet again, but the air is different now, warmer, denser, as if it knows it's clinging to something fragile. You exhale, and the smell follows you down. The air tonight is different, thicker, not from heat or fever, but from something weightless and invisible, like the hush before thunder or the moment just after a candle is snuffed. You don't remember falling asleep, but when you open your eyes, the room is dim, lit only by the faint amber shimmer of oil in a clay dish near your feet. The shadows move slowly across the walls, long, solemn shapes that stretch and curl like smoke, trying to escape through cracks in the plaster. And then, beneath the glow, you notice movement, a figure seated quietly at the edge of the bed, not facing you, but the corner of the room where no one ever looks, where dusk gathers like memory and the beams of the ceiling seem to converge like the ribs of a cathedral. He wears a simple robe, brown, thin, too clean for this house. His hands rest on his knees, one holding a small cloth bundle, the other a rosary worn smooth with repetition. His lips are moving. The words are too soft to catch, but the rhythm is familiar, short, winding phrases, rising and falling like breath pressed through silence. A prayer, not to heal, not to cure, just to be heard. You watch him without speaking, your breath slow and shallow, as though exhaling too deeply might break the moment. The cloth bundle in his hand trembles slightly, not from fear, but age. He unties it with care, revealing a small wooden box carved with crude symbols, crosses, thorns, a fish, and from it he lifts something that gleams faintly in the firelight, a fragment of bone, thin, white, housed in a loop of silver wire. He does not explain it. He does not need to. You know what it is. A relic. He places it gently on your chest, just above the place where your heart stutters and skips. The metal is cold, the bone lighter than you imagined, and the moment it touches you, something inside tenses, not pain, not fear, but recognition, like a memory brushing past in the dark. He lays his hand over it, whispers another line, then closes his eyes. His other hand reaches out and finds yours. He does not squeeze. He simply rests there, palm to palm, as if trying to remind your skin what it feels like to belong to another body. The words continue, slow and steady, a tide of sound that carries no urgency, no demand, just the dull persistence of faith that no longer expects to be answered. You can smell the faint sweetness of frankincense clinging to his robe, the distant echo of chapel smoke and stone floors beneath bare feet. The fire snaps once, but he doesn't flinch. He keeps praying, even as your thoughts begin to wander into the cracks in the ceiling. the flicker of flame behind your lids, the gentle weight of the relic warming slightly against your chest. You wonder whose bone it was. They always say, saint. But bones are bones, and you've seen too many bodies buried with no names for comfort. Perhaps it belonged to a martyr, or a child, or a monk who died without ever being touched. You picture them for a moment, soft features, folded hands, a mouth frozen open in song, and then the image fades, lost in the rising smoke and the gentle murmur of Latin against your skin. The priest leans forward now. His face comes into view, lined and worn, not unkind but emptied, eyes dark and tired, holding a kind of lightless compassion you've only ever seen in those who have held too many hands and watched too many chests rise once. Then, never again. He does not look at you as a man looks at a man. He looks at you as someone looks at a flame guttering in a cold room. He takes a small vial from his sleeve, uncorks it with slow fingers. The scent of oil fills the space around you, thick, earthy, bitter. He dabs a drop onto his thumb and presses it to your forehead, then your chest, then your lips. The anointing is quiet, final. A motion more ancient than thought. His hands do not tremble. Your eyes close, not from fatigue, but because the moment demands it. The oil sits on your skin like dew on stone. He whispers the last words against the space just above your brow. For a moment, all sound ceases. Then he stands. He collects the relic, wraps it again in cloth, places it back in the box. He does not offer comfort, nor explanation, nor goodbye. He does not meet your gaze, only gathers his things with the grace of one who has done this too often to remember each face. As he moves to the door, he pauses briefly to look back, not at you, but at the cot itself. At the outline your body has pressed into the linen, the shape of a person caught between moments. Then, he's gone, and with him. The scent of oil and old stone fades. The light in the dish burns lower. You remain still, slightly slick where the oil rests, slightly cooler where the bone once lay, slightly unsure whether you have just been blessed or gently marked for departure. It is near midnight now, or perhaps long past. It's hard to tell when the walls forget to echo and the sky offers no light, just that low, endless hum of stillness that blankets everything. The candle has long since drowned itself in its own wax, leaving behind a curl of smoke that clings to the rafters like a lazy spirit refusing to leave. You are not sleeping. You are not awake. You are simply there, breathing, existing in the soft, invisible boundary between the hours, where thoughts dissolve into air before they reach their end, and then, beyond the shutter, you notice it, a glow, dim at first, almost hidden, as if the moon had drawn a veil across its face. But as it brightens, slow and deliberate, the color reveals itself reddish, deep, like wine spilled across silver. Not soft like candlelight or pale like milk, but something heavier, more ancient. The kind of light that feels like it remembers things. Blood moon, they call it. A sign, the priest once whispered, of imbalance, of judgment, or perhaps simply a warning that something unseen has begun its slow turning. The door creaks open again. No knock this time, only the sound of careful steps and the faint jingle of metal rings sliding against leather. You do not raise your head. You've grown used to these visits, their quiet, their cold efficiency. This one wears no mask, no apron, only a dark robe cinched at the waist, and a pouch that rustles with every motion. He moves like someone who studies things that don't want to be seen. When he reaches your bed, he does not greet you, does not offer comfort, only kneels beside you and begins unrolling a chart across the table. A thin parchment, covered in lines that twist and cross like veins beneath skin. Symbols you've never learned, marked in ink so fine it seems etched rather than written. He lights a small oil lamp and pulls from his pouch a sphere of brass that ticks softly as it turns rings within rings, small teeth clicking into place as he adjusts it to match the hour, the angle of the moon, the year, the phase of Mars. He asks your birth date. You murmur it. Your voice sounds strange, hollow in your own mouth, like wind moving through a cracked jar. He doesn't comment, just hums under his breath and adjusts a dial. He stares down at the chart, eyes narrowed, tracing with one finger along a curving line toward a cluster of strange marked stars. You assume, or houses, or fates. He nods. Once, slowly. Mars is rising. He says. He doesn't explain what that means, only begins to mumble something beneath his breath, low and rhythmic, as he moves a polished stone across the parchment, following the path of the planet through imaginary skies. His hands are careful, almost reverent, but his brow furrows with each pass. You watch him in silence, wondering how many lives he's read like this, how many he's declared too tangled to untie. He stops, draws a small knife from the pouch, not for blood, for wax. He lights a thin candle and tilts it over the parchment, letting droplets fall into the shape of a sigil you cannot understand. With the flat of the blade, he smears it outward, then dips the tip into a small bowl of ash and presses it lightly against your palm. A symbol forms. Not permanent, but not meaningless either. It tingles faintly on your skin, cool and slightly sticky. You do not ask what it means. You already know it won't change anything. He finally looks at you. His eyes are gray, not cold, but distant, as though whatever he's seen in the stars has drawn part of him upward, away from the room. He does not speak the words aloud, but you feel them settle on the air between you anyway. Not long now, not much further. Your time has narrowed, not to a day or an hour, but a rhythm, a motion, a gentle winding down like a clock approaching silence. He stands, brushes the ash from his hands, rolls the parchment with care, returning each item to its place with a tenderness that almost seems like affection. The room darkens again as he extinguishes the lamp, leaving only the light of the blood moon pressing through the shutters in long red bands across the floor. He walks toward it, pauses at the window, then reaches up to unlatch the slat. It opens with a soft sigh. The moonlight spills into the chamber, fuller now, rich and low, staining everything with a hue that doesn't belong to fire or sun. It touches your face, your hands, your wounds. It makes the linen on your chest glow like pale clay. You turn your head slightly toward it, drawn by something deep in the belly, something older than prayer. The astrologer watches, saying nothing. Outside, somewhere, a dog howls. He does not flinch. He steps away, pulling the shutter gently closed behind him, and the red light narrows once again into slivers. Then he crosses to the door, opens it without a word, and disappears into the night. The silence returns, but it feels watched now, studied, measured, as if your body were no longer simply sick, but part of a pattern too large to see one star among many. Flickering dimly, waiting to be counted, you close your eyes, not because you're tired, but because the moon has seen enough. By morning, your mouth tastes of copper and wood smoke, the back of your throat lined with something bitter that will not wash away. No matter how slowly you sip from the chipped clay cup left by the bed, the water is warm, stagnant. Your tongue curls from it without command, as if your body now recognizes the uselessness of comfort. You lie still for a while, listening to the faint stirring of wind outside the shutters, that thin whisper it makes as it snakes through the cracks in the wall. Not quite a breeze, not quite a breath, just the echo of something passing by without stopping. You count its rhythm, let it pace your thoughts, until another sound replaces it. Wooden footsteps on stone, soft at first, then nearer, then inside, a woman. This time, you don't know her, perhaps a healer, perhaps a servant sent from the apothecary or the parish. She does not speak, only sets her bundle down at the edge of your bed with the weight of someone who's done this many times before. A small bowl of herbs, a flask of liquid, a folded cloth damp with vinegar. Then she turns, leaving you with your new instructions laid out. Plainly smell this. Drink that, wait, purge, rest. Your hand reaches for the flask before your mind agrees to it. The stopper slides out with a hollow pop, and at once the scent overwhelms you, bitterness layered on bitterness. Sharp green notes of wormwood and yarrow, tempered only slightly by the sour breath of old wine and boiled root. You do not hesitate. The mixture touches your tongue like a knife. It scrapes across your teeth, coats the roof of your mouth, and runs down your throat in slow, burning threads. Your stomach clenches before it understands, curling inward like a fist held too long. A breath later, the nausea rises. You press the cloth to your lips, more instinct than intention. But it comes anyway, not violent, not sudden, just inevitable. The heaving starts low in your gut and rolls upward, dragging with it everything that has not already been taken. Fragments of stale broth, traces of bile, whatever herbs they crushed for your last meal. You lean forward, trembling, as it spills from you into the bucket beside the bed. Each wave less than the one before, each breath more hollow. When it is done, your ribs ache, your mouth burns, but your body feels quieter somehow, as though the illness had been stirred, if not yet silenced. You lie back slowly, head resting against the damp pillow. The woman is gone, the door slightly ajar. The air feels different, Noah, lighter, not cleaner, but thinner, like smoke after rain. You close your eyes again. The burning lingers at the back of your throat, but beneath it is a strange softness, not relief, not recovery, just the absence of more. They say purging is the only way to draw out the darkness, that some sickness lives in the soul and must be expelled through the body, that when the humors tangle too tightly, they must be shaken loose by force. They believe illness is not only matter, but spirit, something stubborn, coiled deep, that must be shown the door. You do not know if it is true, but you do know that afterward, you feel emptier, not better, not worse, just less. You open your eyes to find the light has changed. The walls are bathed in pale yellow now, the kind of light that doesn't last long, the hour between waking and full day, when the world decides whether to move forward or stay still. Dust floats in it, slow and drifting, catching on beams and hanging in the corners like tiny prayers that never finish their sentences. Your body no longer aches. It hums, a low, even thrum, as if each muscle has resigned itself to its own weakness, no longer fighting, no longer pleading for attention. You run your tongue along your teeth and taste bitterness still clinging there, faint but stubborn. You reach for the cup again, sip once more, and though it does nothing to wash it away, it is something to do with your hands. There's movement again. Another bowl left by the door, warm, covered in cloth. You reach for it slowly, lift the edge, a mash of root and broth, thick with steam and something else in eyes, maybe, or nettle. You take one bite, then another. Your stomach accepts it. But without interest, it is not food, it is ritual. They believe you must refill yourself after the purge. They say you must balance what was taken. Offer the body something to rebuild with, lest the void invite something worse. So you eat, slowly, mechanically. The warmth runs through your chest and pools at your belly. It does not soothe, it simply fills. When the bowl is empty, you lie back again, hands resting against your ribs, head turned toward the window. The light outside is colder now, the sky a pale wash of linen stretched too tightly across the horizon. Somewhere in the distance, bells ring thin, echoing, carried by wind but not meant for you. You close your eyes and listen, counting the chimes without moving your lips. 1, 2, 3. You lose track before they end. And in that pause between sound and silence, you feel something shift again, not in the room, not in your body, but in the part of yourself that still listens. Something smaller, stiller, a thread pulled loose from whatever remained woven. You don't reach for it, you just let it go. The scent reaches you before your eyes open, a strange layering of sweetness and sharpness, as though someone had crushed lavender and garlic together in a single cloth and let it hang above your face overnight. You remain still for a long while, breathing slowly through your nose, feeling the weight of the smell wrap around your senses. Not unpleasant, but thick, clinging, like wet wool in winter. It's stronger than the room should be, stronger than any oil or tincture that's touched your skin so far. And as your thoughts begin to rise, heavy and slow, like silt stirred from the bottom of a well, you feel the press of something foreign resting just above your chest mall, warm, tied with a string. You move one hand up to it, fingers grazing rough fabric, dried stems, the smooth bead of wax. A sachet, Someone has hung a charm around your neck while you slept. You open your eyes. The room is low with amber light, the shadows longer now, the outlines of furniture stretching along the floor like quiet witnesses. You recognize the bundle immediately. It's the kind they give to the very sick, the ones whose beds have been circled 3 times in silence, whose names are spoken only in back rooms and corners of conversation, the kind who need more than herbs and prayers. Inside are dried rose petals, crushed sage, cloves, thin slices of garlic, curled shavings of frankincense resin. Somewhere in the center, a single iron nail, rusted and old, bound with a thread dyed with wine and salt. You hold it gently. The warmth isn't imagined. Someone pressed it to the fire before placing it there. That someone believed it should arrive alive. You glance toward the chair, empty. Whoever it was has already left, or perhaps was never there at all. Just another quiet visitor who enters rooms like a shadow and leaves before names become necessary. You breathe in again, slower this time, the scent catching faintly in your throat, and you imagine it working its way through your blood, following the sickness, confusing it, frightening it, as if illness were a thing that could be chased by smell alone. They say scent is a gate, that it opens things inside us we don't know are closed, that some smells wake memories, others wake the body, and some, the strongest, can keep death itself at bay for a while, if only long enough for the soul to make peace with the part of the body it has to leave behind. You let the sachet rest against your sternum, feel its weight like a heartbeat, not your own. Outside, a bird calls once, faint and low, its cry swallowed quickly by the stillness that follows. Your fingers trace the edge of the linen tied around your throat, and as you lie there, your eyes drift across the space above your bed. Hanging from the beam is a loop of red twine, freshly knotted, a sprig of dried rosemary tied into it with a piece of bone. It swings slightly, not from breeze, just from settling. More charms, more defenses. You count them, one at your neck, one above your bed. You wonder how many others have been placed without your knowing, beneath your mattress, behind the door, maybe even stitched into the seams of your blanket. You don't mind? Let them come. Let every superstition and sacred scrap be summoned, if it keeps the plague one step away. Even if only in the minds of those who love you. Your body does not feel lighter, but it feels watched over. There's a sensation now along your arm, not pain exactly, but a slow warmth spreading outward from the sachet as if the herbs are steeping into your skin, claiming it gently. You close your eyes again, not because you are tired, but because the darkness is quieter than the sight of all these gestures. In the dark, the amulet becomes part of you. In the dark, belief becomes touch. You breathe in once more, long and unbroken, and feel the scent move into the deepest corners of your lungs. There's myrrh in it too, or something close, something resinous and golden that reminds you of church when the pews are full and the incense thick enough to blur the saints' faces in the stained glass. You remember the way the children used to cough during long masses, how they'd bury their faces in their sleeves and whisper that the smoke was choking them, and the old women would smile and say, "The Lord prefers the air that's been made holy." You wonder if this air, this thick, sacred haze surrounding your bed, has been made holy, or merely bearable. Your fingers loosen around the sachet. You let it fall back onto your chest. Let it rest there like a small heart borrowed from something else, something not quite human. Your breathing slows. The ache in your joints dulls beneath the layers of clove and smoke. The cough that's been rising in your throat holds back, paused by the hush of lavender, the command of rosemary. There is a kind of silence now that feels chosen, less like absence, more like reverence. They will come back later, bring another charm, another branch wrapped in ribbon, another oil pressed into your skin with prayers muttered through cloth. You will not stop them. You will not ask what it's for. You will let them tie whatever they must to your door, your bed frame, your wrists. You will lie still and let belief settle on your skin like ash. You will not hope. You will not despair. You will simply breathe, and let the amulet breathe with you. There's a stillness in the street today that doesn't belong to the hour or the weather, but to the kind of silence that sinks down from the rooftops and into the bones of the town, spreading itself like a damp cloth laid over every voice, every step, every breath too loud. You lie in bed, body sunken into the mattress the way a stone sinks into mud slowly, with permanence and though your eyes are open. You do not look outside. You don't need to. You already know what's there. They came before the sun rose. Two figures, no names, no words, faces covered, hands gloved, steps muffled by purpose. You heard the knock first, not the sharp rap of a visitor, but the dull, deliberate thump of authority. Then the murmur of voices, low, quick, not meant to be understood, just obeyed. Then the brush of bristles against wood, paint dragged with finality, the scrape of chalk, the thud of a pail set down, the silence that follows such acts, and the scent thick, leaden, sour. You could smell it even through the closed window, that particular kind of paint they use for death. They have marked your door, not with words, not with letters, but with the red cross, a simple stroke, one vertical, one horizontal, slashed across the wood with a kind of practiced indifference. It does not ask. It declares, this house is infected. This house is closed. This house is no longer part of the world that moves. You heard the whispers in the alley earlier in the week, when the cobbler's wife fell, when her shutters stayed closed, when the priest passed by without looking up. You remember how quickly the straw appeared at her threshold, how her door was painted before the sun had time to melt the frost from the roof. You remember the smell of smoke from her chimney the next morning, and how it stopped the day after. You remember that no one went to fetch bread from her husband again. You remember how it began, how it always begins, how it has begun now for you. There is straw outside your door too, not much, just a thin scattering, enough to warn, enough to keep others from wandering too close, enough to tell the children not to touch the stones here. The straw is meant to trap the plague, to keep it from drifting underfoot, as if it were a mist that clings to shoes and dogs and baskets. But you know it doesn't trap anything. It only marks the border between the sick and the spared, and now you are on one side of that line. You turn your head slightly, just enough to catch the outline of the shutters, the faint line of light leaking through where the frame has warped with age. You imagine the paint on the other side, bright and wet, drying slowly in the late morning sun. You imagine people walking by and seeing it, stepping wider, moving faster, lowering their voices. You imagine the shop boy who once smiled at you doing the same. You wonder if hell still bring the bread. You wonder if anyone will. There is a bowl by the door. Someone placed it there in the night. It sits on a cloth, its edge dusted with ash, a sprig of sage tucked beside it. You know what it means. If you need something, you place a coin. If someone is brave or desperate or kind, they'll leave food, maybe water, maybe not. You won't see them. They won't knock, but you'll hear the bowl scrape as they set it down. That's the new rhythm of kindness. You close your eyes again, behind your lids. The door looms larger, that red cross, that unspoken sentence. You wonder how many houses have worn it before yours. How many more will? You wonder who made the brush strokes, whether their hand trembled, whether they whispered a prayer while doing it, or whether they've stopped praying by now. You wonder if it matters. The room feels smaller today, not because the fever is worse, though it is, but because the outside world feels further than it did yesterday. You are no longer part of it. You are contained, watched, feared, not hated. Just placed gently out of reach. You touch the amulet still resting on your chest, your fingers brushing the fabric without lifting it. The herbs inside have wilted. Their scent has faded into your skin. Their strength, whatever it was, is quiet now. You keep it there anyway. You will not untie it, not yet. Somewhere outside, a cart rolls by, slow, heavy. It does not stop. Then silence returns. You imagine the sky above your roof, the clouds too high to notice the mark on your door, the wind passing freely, untouched by symbols or warnings. You imagine that same wind brushing past your window, curling beneath the shutter, pressing lightly against your face. It doesn't judge you. It doesn't speak. It just moves. Later, someone may come to light the candle at your sill, or maybe not. Later, someone may forget to leave the bread, or not care to. Later, they may come again, with a different paint, a different mark. But for now, the cross is red, the straw is dry, and the house is quiet. You breathe in, deep and slow, and let the stillness hold you, not because it is kind, but because it is all that remains. You wake not from sleep, but from a stillness so deep it feels like it belongs to the stones beneath the house. A quiet that presses into your spine and cradles your ribs like a second body. One made of silence and slow breath. There is no sound in the room, not even the creak of wood or the whisper of wind. Only the faint throb behind your eyes and the weight of a heat that no longer rises or falls, but simply hovers. Constant and without argument. The world has settled around you, drawn its lines, whispered its verdict. You are still here, still sick, still on the edge where time forgets how to count. But something is different. There's a presence in the air, not a scent or a sound, but a suggestion, a shape barely forming just beyond the reach of the senses. You lie still and let it find you. Then you hear it faint, scuttling, rhythmic, tiny nails clicking over stone, not hurried, not afraid, just purposeful, as though the creature owns the floor more than you do now. You do not flinch, you only listen. The steps pause, then move again. You know the sound before you even look. A rat, small, quick, somewhere behind the cupboard. It does not come for you. It does not flee. It just moves, exploring the space the way a creature might pace the outline of a story it has heard too many times. The sound is familiar. You have heard it all your life. But now, in this silence, it becomes something else. A question. A cause. They've started talking about the rats. Not openly, not yet. But you heard the voices outside 3 nights ago. 2 men, one older, one young, pausing by your neighbor's wall. Voices low, urgent, not filled with panic but suspicion. As though a new piece had entered the puzzle and no one yet knew how to fit it. One said the rats were swelling with plague, that their bellies burst and their eyes wept blood. The other said no. It wasn't the rats themselves. It was the fleas, the tiny ones you couldn't see, that hid in fur and hay and warm corners of blankets. He said they leapt from beast to man, from fur to flesh, and left sickness behind with every bite. The first man asked why. Then, the rich still fell sick. With their heavy doors and sealed walls, the second did not answer, just said the rats find everyone. You try to picture them, 1,000 bodies hidden in the rafters, pressed behind stones, living beneath floorboards, weaving themselves through homes like a second kind of people unseen, unfeared until now. You think of the baker's boy who used to chase them with a broom, laughing as they darted through the street. You wonder if he still laughs. You wonder if he still runs. The rat in your room has gone quiet. You wait. It does not return. Instead, your thoughts do. Thick now, moving slower than before. Not because your mind is dim, but because the effort of holding them in place feels like trying to grasp smoke in a closed fist. They slip away, drift, circle back. The rat, the plague, the painted door, the herbs, the iron, the prayers. You see each moment like a string tied to a bell, and somewhere in the back of your skull, they all ring at once, softly, endlessly, a sound that never leaves but no longer registers as sound. They are burning grain now. You smelled it yesterday. When the wind changed, burnt oats, charred rye, stacks of barley piled outside the granary and set to flame. They believe the rats gather where the grain is kept, that the plague lives in the food long before it touches your hands. You imagine the flames curling through the stalks, licking the air with black fingers, the rats pouring from the walls like ink, fleeing smoke that no longer distinguishes between guilty and innocent. Some say the rats carry curses in their eyes, that they speak in squeaks only devils understand, that they were sent, not born, that they arrived with the ships and the merchants and the spice crates, crawling out of the holes like messengers of old anger. Others say nonsense. They say it is still God, or bad air, or the imbalance of stars, or simply life strange and cruel and tilting toward ruin for no reason at all. But the rats keep moving. You hear another now, closer, beneath the cot. It does not frighten you. Its presence is a rhythm, a tether, a reminder that the world still moves beneath your unmoving limbs. You breathe in, catch the faintest trace of salt and smoke and straw, the taste of dust, the memory of earth. You lie there, unmoving, your skin warm and thin and waiting. The rat stops again, and for a moment, you imagine it pausing beside you, studying your shape, wondering why you do not rise, why you do not chase it. why the sickness inside you has made you no longer part of the game. It will go. It always does. It will find another floor, another bed, another blanket left too long untouched, and when it does, it will carry something with it, or nothing at all. The scent of wax and wool reaches you first, faint, dry, threaded with the ghost of old incense. Not sweet like the herbs they burn near the door, not sharp like vinegar or smoke, but warm and dusty. The scent of things long kept in cupboards, of altar cloths folded and forgotten, of pages turned slowly by candlelight. The priest has come. Though you do not hear him at first, his footsteps are light, his presence smaller than it once was. But something in the air tells you he is near, a shift in the quiet that feels not like intrusion, but recognition. You turn your head slowly, and he is already there beside you, not seated, not standing, just present. His figure wrapped in layers of black cloth, the face covered, the hands gloved, the cross at his chest dulled by soot. He carries no book, no bell, only the rhythm of prayer held somewhere deep behind the veil that hides his mouth. He does not speak your name. He does not ask if you remember the rites. He kneels without ceremony, lays a folded square of linen beneath his knees, and draws from beneath his cloak a small wooden token, the shape worn down, the carving too soft to make out clearly. But you know what it is, or was, a saint, a martyr, a memory. He places it near your hand, not touching you, not asking permission, just leaving it there like a footprint in snow. His voice, when it comes, is low, slow, as though shaped from breath more than sound. A single phrase in Latin that carries not instruction, but invitation. You are too tired to reply, but he doesn't wait. He begins with the old lines, the ones you've heard since childhood, the ones everyone knows not as words but as patterns, as pulse, as gentle repetition that steadies the lungs when fear begins to rise. He speaks of mercy. He speaks of judgment. He speaks of the soul not as something to be saved, but something to be returned gently, carefully, as though it were on loan and must be given back without damage. He does not ask you to confess. He only waits. And so you do. Not with words, not with the long catalogs of guilt they once made you memorize, but with breath, with memory, with silence broken only by the weight of presence. You let the images come slowly, your first cruelty, your smallest theft, the day you lied without being caught, the moment you turned away from someone's grief because it was easier not to care. You offer them not to him, not even to God, but to the room itself, to the walls that have kept you through sickness and sleep and every hour between. You let the thoughts unfold without order. You let them drift, not seeking absolution, only space. The priest remains still. When he speaks again, it is with fewer words, a blessing, quiet and half lost beneath the cloth, a reminder of the body that suffers and the soul that remembers. He takes the saint's token and presses it gently to your forehead, his gloved fingers soft but firm, the gesture not ritual but touch. You feel the cool wood against your skin, and though your eyes are closed now, you see the outline of the shape, its worn edges, its hollowed eyes, the trace of care left by every hand that's held it before yours. He withdraws slowly, not rushed, not afraid, just deliberate, as if every step backward must be equal in weight to the step forward. Before he leaves, he sets something beside the beaded strip of cloth, folded once, dark red, with a cross stitched into one corner, not for healing, not for comfort, for marking, so that others will know you have spoken, that your words, even if unspoken, have been witnessed. He does not wait for thanks. He does not require gratitude. He simply gathers his things and turns, the cloak brushing the floor, the air folding close behind him as he moves. At the door, he pauses, a breath, a moment, not for drama, not for reflection, only to trace a small sign in the air, a motion so quick you would miss it if you blinked. Then he is gone. The door clicks softly behind him. The scent of his presence lingers, not strong, but enough. Wax, smoke, something bitter, something warm. You lie back again, the linen beneath your spine damp with sweat, the token beside your hand still warm from touch. Your skin prickles faintly where the wood met your brow. You do not know if you feel forgiven. You do not know if you need to. But something has loosened in the space between your ribs. Not relief, not peace, just an opening. The smallest one. Wide enough for breath to move more freely. The sky outside is darker now. Not the heavy dark of storm or night, but the kind that comes when the clouds gather too thick for the sun to find its way through. You hear nothing but the wind tracing its fingers along the shutters, the faint hum of your own breath echoing softly in your ears. The cloth by your bed catches the light as it shifts, its stitched cross nearly invisible now in the gloom, but you know it's there, and somehow that is enough. You close your eyes and let the quiet fold over you once more. Not as a veil, not as a weight, but as something that holds. The rhythm of the house has shifted again, not in sound, but in air, in the way the light rests longer on the wall, in the way the floorboards no longer groan beneath careful steps, in the quiet weight that has replaced movement. For hours, maybe longer, no one has entered. No new bowls have appeared at the threshold. No cloth has been changed. No prayers spoken low in corners. Even the rats seem to have vanished, their scurrying replaced by a deeper silence. Not fearful, not final, just still. You lie unmoving beneath the linen, body pressed into the shape it has learned to hold. Limbs softened by the repetition of stillness, eyes half open but unfocused. Watching the slow golden smear of sun climb higher along the plaster until it disappears entirely. The fever has cooled slightly, not gone, but dimmed like a fire beneath ash. The pain in your side has become a memory rather than a presence, a dull echo that rises only when you shift, and even that. You've mostly stopped doing. There are stories. Of course, there are always stories. Even through the quiet, they arrive, passed in fragments through shutters and half-heard whispers in the street. The neighbor's boy recovered. His fever broke with the dawn, and by the time the second bell rang, he was sitting up, asking for bread, laughing. They say he walked to the well by himself before noon. Some called it divine. Others said his family had used a different herb, one not yet tested. Some believe he was never truly ill, but he breathes now. That part is certain. And they washed the red cross from their door by dusk. There are others too. A girl who rose from her bed after 10 days, skin hot and pale but clear-eyed, her mother holding her as if she were water in a cracked jar. A priest who stood from the brink just long enough to deliver one final sermon. A merchant who walked all the way to the chapel and placed 3 coins in the poor box before collapsing outside the door. Some of them lived, some did not, and no one knows which hour made the difference. You do not allow yourself to hope, but you feel it crawling at the edges of your breath, not bold, not bright, just a tremble, the kind that moves through the chest when the body tries to rise before the mind agrees. Your hand shifts once beneath the blanket, fingers curling, uncurling, pressing lightly against your hip to confirm that you are still here, still real, still whole enough to know the shape of your own ribs. The room smells of boiled wool and lavender, too long dried. The amulet around your neck has slipped sideways, pressing into your collarbone. You do not move it. You let it rest where it falls, beyond the wall. Someone weeps, not loud, not near, but enough for the sound to catch in the seams of the house and settle in the corners. A name is spoken, soft and broken, then silence again. A door closes somewhere. A latch is drawn. Someone is burying their dead, perhaps behind the chapel, perhaps in the field near the grove. The earth has been turned so often now that grass no longer grows in lines. Graves come fast, one beside the next, wood markers leaning forward in surrender, names etched hastily. Sometimes not at all. They bury the young in the morning, the old by moonlight, whoever fits into the hours left untouched by labor or fear. You do not cry. Your body has spent itself, but you feel the sting rise once in the hollow of your chest, like a cough that never formed. The sound never escapes. Your breath slows again. You focus on the way the linen clings to your thighs, the pattern of the weave against your skin, the faint itch at your wrist where sweat has dried and gathered. These are the pieces of now. You keep them close. You let them build a kind of boundary, a shape to hold within while the world continues its slow unraveling just beyond the frame of your window. When they come back, they do not speak. A woman, unfamiliar, wrapped in layers that smell of beeswax and smoke. Carries a bowl of broth to your side, sets it down with a careful hand, then glances once at your face before turning away. She leaves the door ajar. The light from outside shifts as she passes through it. You hear the murmur of her steps fade into the street. You do not call after her. You do not eat the broth. You only lie there, eyes open, listening to the breath that still moves in and out of you, thinner now, but steady. For a moment, one you do not mark with time, you wonder if this is the turn, the place where sickness leaves quietly, without warning, without fanfare, simply stepping out of the body the way a guest might slip from a gathering, coat in hand, no goodbyes. Or perhaps it is just a pause, the space before the next wave. You do not know. No one does. But for now, you are breathing, and the grave, if it waits elsewhere. There is no clear moment when the fever breaks, no thunderclap of recovery, no dramatic gasp of air or triumphant pulse. It simply recedes, like tide water pulling gently from the shore, leaving behind the outline of its presence in salt and silence. You wake, not sharply, but as if rising slowly from beneath a heavy sheet, the kind woven from days and nights and hours that have blurred so thoroughly you no longer bother to separate them. The light through the shutters is soft, low, yellowing at the edges, the kind of light that belongs not to a time of day but to the thin place between 1 hour and the next. Your body feels unfamiliar, not whole, but empty, drained, light, the way parchment must feel after ink has dried into it. The ache is still there, dulled and distant, a faint humming beneath the skin, but the burn has gone. Your limbs, though slow, are yours again. When you lift a hand and hold it before your face, it trembles gently, but obeys. No one is in the room. No priest, no healer, no masked doctor with vinegar-soaked herbs tucked into a beaked mask. The basin beside your bed is empty. The broth has cooled. The red cross on the door may still be there. But no one has visited today, or if they have, they've come and gone without waking you. The amulet still rests at your chest, the cord now twisted, the scent of cloves and dried sage nearly faded. You breathe slowly, carefully, not to test your lungs, but to savor the quiet pull of air through a body that remembers movement. It is not peace exactly, but the absence of resistance. You sit up, not fast, not easily, but upright, spine folding into a shape it hasn't held in days. The cot creaks beneath you, familiar in its protest, the straw shifting beneath the thin mattress. Your feet touch the floor. It is cool, hard, and uneven. You stare at them for a long while, not because you've forgotten how they work, but because it feels strange that they are still yours, still real, still capable of carrying weight. The window remains shuttered, but a thin line of golden light stretches across the floor, where one board has bent slightly with age. Dust floats in the beam, slow and delicate, as though reluctant to fall. You follow its movement for a while, tracing the slow arc of each fleck with your eyes, allowing time to lengthen again, not as suffering, but as presence. The longer you sit, the more memory returns, not in order, not in clarity, but in warmth, in rhythm, in pieces. You remember the first day, the scratch in the throat, the heaviness behind the eyes, the way the air thickened around you before you even felt the heat. You remember the hands that lifted you, the bowl of water pressed to your lips, the first visitor, the first silence. You remember the weight of the iron on your skin, the sting of vinegar, the sick sweet scent of burned herbs. You remember the chick in its eyes wide, its body warm, the absurdity of its touch beneath your arm as it was passed over your swelling flesh like an offering. You remember the prayers mumbled through cloth, the relics brushed against your chest, the ink of red paint drying on the outside of the world. You remember the rat beneath your bed, the girl across the street who stopped coughing, the boy who never did. You remember the voice at your ear whispering the name of a saint, the sound of soil being turned beyond the window, the silence that followed when someone was gone, and yet now. You remain, you rise to standing. It is difficult. The body resists, not from pain, but from unfamiliarity, like boots pulled on after too many seasons barefoot. Your legs shake, your breath shortens, but you stand. The room sways for a moment, its corners dipping gently as though rocked by wind, but it passes. You take a step, then another. The bowl by the door holds no bread, but someone has left a clean cloth. You press it to your face, its scent faintly familiar, like smoke and rosemary. You do not cry. There are no tears left, just the breath, just the motion, just the knowledge that today, unlike so many others, you are not lying flat beneath the weight of what was. You pull open the shutter. The light is stronger now, not bright, but warm, dust rising in golden spirals. The street is still, but not empty. A woman carries a jug from one doorway to another. A boy chases a dog that doesn't belong to him. A cart rattles in the distance. The wind moves gently, brushing past your face as if checking to see if you remember how it feels. You lean your hands on the sill and let it touch your skin. Let it trace the edges of your eyes, your jaw, your breath. The house is quiet. Your body, for the first time in days, does not shiver. You stand at the window, not hidden, not covered, and the world continues, not unchanged, not unscarred, but turning, and you, remarkably, are turning with it.